I thought I moved to Mexico, for the prices and, the weather and all that. But to be honest, what made me like stay and made me feel home was the connection, right? And, when I first came to Mexico, I didn't know anybody, I didn't know any other language, nothing. It was really supposed to be temporary, really. But like when I learned Spanish, everything opened up. You know what I'm saying? Like it actually started to feel like home in a lot of different ways. I mean, I've made friends with people, just lifetime friends, people I consider family in a lot of ways, people I really, really, really trust and admire. And my life now with my wife and the family, everything is just it would have been possible without Spanish, right? I remember when I was like starting to learn, I was, you know, people were very, very, very helpful. When I came to Mexico City, out in a group, a friend of mine who was from Mexico City, he invited me to come meet his family, and everybody there was so cool and just so nice. And we played games, and I found out his grandfather passed away, but his grandfather was really very, 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 very awesome, man. He was cool. He really made me feel like I was one of, was a part of the family. If I never would have learned Spanish, none of this would have been possible. You're probably watching this video and you probably in Mexico feeling isolated. I'm here to tell you, man, Spanish is going to cure it. You probably go out and you hear people talking around you speaking in Spanish and you feel isolated. You feel like, dang, man, I'm just a gringo. I'm just out. I'll never be a part of the conversation. But that's not true, man. You can be a part of the conversation. You could be a part of the people. You could be like, you're not Mexican, right? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you can feel a belonging. You can find your tribe, because a lot of times it's a numbers game, right? You know, yeah, you can kind of stay amongst like other Americans, things like that, but it's probably other people who speak Spanish and it might be more akin to you, right? They might feel like they might be more kindred. I'll give you an example. I had went to Playa del Carmen. I met this guy, and me and him had like I was at the time I was studying software engineering, and he was a software developer, and me and him were like it was kind of like he spoke some English though, but at the same time though it was like we were like kindred spirits. You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking on another level. Like we're really talking about programming, but like Spanish was like kind of not that much friction because what we were really talking about was so important to what we wanted to discuss that Spanish just became like the mediator of that. But it was really cool because I learned words, he learned words. It was really awesome. Um, you know, and I want that for you too because being isolated, feeling stuck, feeling like you don't belong. That's why a lot of people leave Mexico. Now, some people say it's this and that, but like if you ever go and watch somebody's story on why they left Mexico, I promise you, 9.9 times out of 10, a lot of times they didn't learn Spanish, and it's not really their fault, right? I always talk about on my channel, learning Spanish. The methods are just so outdated, so archaic. That's why you have so many people, so many Americans that live in Mexico and can't speak Spanish. Um, you know, Language schools, Duolingo, grammar books, all that stuff doesn't work. What you really need is a Spanish learning system, a system that's going to allow you to make the world your classroom, right? It's going to allow you to be engaged and talk to people, make friends, experience new cultures, learn history, do all types of cool things that you never thought you could dream of. Because I'll tell you right now, I can't guarantee you'll learn Spanish, but I can guarantee when you do, your life will change. 1,000,000% your life will change. When you learn Spanish, your life changes dramatically. Like I'm talking about in ways you've never even thought of. Learning Spanish opened up doors for me. You know how they like to be honest, I didn't even know these doors were there. They say like it opens up doors. I didn't even know the door was there until I learned Spanish. Like these doors just appeared, just materialized, just like teleported in my face. Like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do that. Oh snap, I didn't know that was possible. Oh okay, oh wow, okay, this and that. It's really a beautiful thing. You don't want to, being isolated. It sucks. Trust me. I know. And then you kind of get susceptible to a lot of things. Like if you lean too much on English in a Spanish speaking country, it could have some dangerous things to it. Like I remember one time I was in this taxi and this dude spoke English and I didn't speak Spanish. I thought this dude was my friend. I was green. I just didn't know what I was. I didn't know nothing, but he was speaking English to me and everything, and he was helping me doing all this. I didn't know he was running up the meter on me though. It was like a little, not, but that English was just so, you know, it was that's what hooked me. That English was talking to me, but you know, now when you learn Spanish, I tell you, when you're in the mode of learning Spanish, though, it's like the people you're practicing with, they're gonna like you could tell, right? I think when you learn Spanish, it reveals a lot about the people around you. Like when you're learning Spanish, the people who actually take the time and the patience to actually speak to you, those people are going to be like, oh man, they feel like people you could trust, right? And from my experience, the people who helped me learn Spanish are people who I can trust. They're people I've, called friends, amigos, amigas to this day. So if you don't want to be isolated and stuck speaking Spanish, you got to get my Spanish learning system. The link is in the description box below. Check it out. Like I always, make the world your classroom. Be independent and learn Spanish the right way. Right, speak Spanish. That's the key. So all right, y'all. It's your boy Lou, man, signing out. Peace.